TRC interview. First question. Why did you decide to move to America?
Well, it's a very interesting story. I was a student in Poland. I was studying English, and a group of my friends had an opportunity to go to study in the United States, specifically at Humboldt State University, and I decided to join them. So, a group of five of us left Poland and we flew to New York. Then we took a Greyhound bus across the United States, and we end up in 1990 in Arcata, California, and we were all students at HSU. And I planned to be here only for a year to study my English and then to go back to Poland. But I met my husband and we ended up getting married. And now, 30 years later, I'm here with my husband and my family, my children. And
So, how long exactly have you lived in America?
I landed in New York City on July 4th, 1990. So it will be 31 years this summer.
So, have you gotten a citizenship?
No, I don't have a citizenship. I have a green card, which means that I am legally here, but I am still a Polish citizen living in the United States.
Do you see any advantages there would be to having a citizenship instead of just having a green card?
I think there are, well, I can be here legal and I can work here legally. So this is the most important thing for me. As a green card holder, I am not allowed to vote in the United States, and there are some jobs which are only permitted to people who are US citizens, some federal jobs. So I wouldn't be able to, I cannot run for office, for example, not being a citizen. And now, when I'm getting older, I think that it would be really probably beneficial for me to have a US citizenship because people who only have a green card are not allowed to leave United States for longer than 180 days. So if I would like to travel between Poland and United States, I would have to give it some consideration. But so far, it really hasn't been an issue for me.
Right. What is your relationship like with your home country?
It's a very strong relationship because my whole family still lives in Poland. My parents, my siblings, my cousins. I am the only person who lives here. So I try to go every year, every summer, or every 2 years to visit my family in Poland. And it's very important to me to stay in touch with them. It's very much my home to me.
Have you kept Polish tradition in your family life?
I try to a certain extent, but it is really difficult, specifically here in Humboldt County, because there isn't a really big Polish community here. So, for example, I can do some things at home with my family, with my husband and my sons, but my husband, being an American, really doesn't have the same appreciation for Polish culture, obviously, that I have. And things that are natural and normal for me are kind of exotic and foreign to him. So, and our sons are somewhere in between. They are very respectful of my Polish tradition, but still growing up here and knowing, in the United States being their country and all their friends being Americans, they are very much Americans. And but we try to celebrate some holidays. I try to cook some Polish food, but they don't speak Polish language, so they don't really participate in Polish holidays in a way that, for example, my cousin who live in the East Coast, there is a really big Polish community there. There are Polish stores which sell Polish food. There are Polish schools. There are Polish churches. So I see that my cousins' children who live on the East Coast have a much deeper understanding of Polish culture that my children have.
Right. What were the toughest things for you to adjust to after you moved to America?
The toughest thing was and still is language, because English is my second language. Even though I studied English in Poland before I came over here, so I was always able to communicate. I never was in a situation that I wouldn't understand what's going on around me and that I wouldn't be able to talk to people. I came here to study. I was able to study at HSU, even though English was my second language. But still, because of the way I speak, because of my accent, it is really challenging sometimes. It's challenging in a way that I can never really quite feel as I am, that I am at home here. But part of me, I had to forget about, of part of me, people who I deal with on everyday basis are not really interested in. And this has to do with Polish language, Polish culture, all the things that I grew up with. I was already 24 years old when I came over here, so I was a grown person. And there are still things that I miss about Poland and Polish books, Polish poetry, Polish movies, which were such a big part of my culture. And when I meet with my Polish friends in Poland, I can talk to them because they were our mutual experiences. Here, nobody can relate to those things. And I was really happy embracing American culture and learning and reading American books and American movies and everything. But I feel that like nobody really is interested. And it's hard to explain those things in a foreign language, because when I was thinking even about a Polish poet, a lady who Wisława Szymborska, who received a Nobel Prize in Literature in 1996, because her poetry is just absolutely amazing in Polish, and big part of it was translated into English. So I tried to read it to my husband or my children, but so much of it is lost in translation that it almost doesn't make sense, because it still doesn't mean the same thing to them when they have to read it in English that it does to me. So I think that this is the greatest part, that I have this idea, and which is constant with me every day, that there is so much of me that I have to kind of give up.
Have you felt welcomed as a first generation immigrant?
I felt very welcomed. From the first day I was here, people in Humboldt County were extremely friendly and extreme. All my professors at HSU, I had wonderful experiences, and I loved English language. English was my major when I was in Poland. So when I came over here, just listening to people speaking English was a joy. It was heaven on earth for me. Taking classes, when I still take a real great joy from listening to people speaking English. So people were extremely friendly, extremely supportive, and this is definitely my favorite thing about Humboldt County, how friendly people are and how accepted I was and still feel this way. And all the things that I feel uncomfortable about are more probably created by me and my being overly sensitive about speaking with an accent. And nobody really laughed at my face if I hear some comments of maybe sometimes people have hard time understanding me. I am very sensitive about it, but I cannot say that people laugh at me or that people are not friendly or not accepting because I am from Poland. If anything, people comment a lot, oh, I like your accent, it's so nice to listen to you. And I appreciate the sentiment and I'm really grateful. But on the other hand, it just makes me feel it's like a daily reminder that I am not at home, that this is not who I am, but I am just this foreigner speaking with a funny accent.
Final question. What have you gained from moving to America? If you can answer that.
I think that when I left Poland, Poland was going through very difficult economic stuff, and stores were empty, it was difficult to buy. So it was easy to move here in a way, because like my friend said, it's easy to move from the country where situation is more difficult to to country where life is easier. And life definitely was and is much easier for people in the United States than it is for many other countries. And I think that it even has to do with bureaucracy and people being very friendly in the offices, and people, so many things just are so much easier here. And me being here for so long now, I think that I started to take those things for granted, that when you go to store, everybody is so nice, customer service, everybody is really nice and friendly. And I also think that it has something to do with stress level in the other countries, that it was easier for Americans to be so nice and friendly because life was so without that many challenges that it is in other countries, that it was in Poland, for example. So I still am amazed how nice and acceptable. This is a very rich country, so things are, if you want to buy something, you can order it. Access to things, access to technology. There's things which is much easier. When I have memories of not being able to buy shoes or not being able to buy food, or having to stay in line in grocery stores to buy a pound of flour or something, or a loaf of bread. So I think that it was definitely easier this way.
And what have been the biggest sacrifices?
Well, like I mentioned before, I think, leaving my family behind, being so far away, and especially that it's so far away from Poland. I am literally halfway across the world from my home, from my hometown, from my parents, from my siblings. So if it was closer, if I was closer to Poland, if I was able to visit them more often, it would be much easier. Now I am appreciative because of it. Technology. I can call them on the phone regularly. We can talk through Skype. We can talk through different social media. So it's easier to stay in touch right now than it was 30 years ago when I first came over here. But I still miss them a lot, and I get homesick, and I wish I could be more often with them.
All right, that concludes the TRC interview. Thank you.